Wait.
Wait. And the green flag is waving and the video has already started. What's up, guys? It's Fast Cars, Fast Money, and we're talking about the Cup Series at Richmond this weekend. It's the second playoff race of the first round of the playoffs. The first playoff race, we saw a whole lot of chaos, a whole lot of playoff guys getting into trouble. Don't expect that this time around, but you never know. As far as the race preview and initial thoughts, it's 400 laps. So there's a lot of dominator points available and up for grabs this weekend. It's a short, flat track. It's run somewhat similar to Phoenix. Obviously, we raced at Richmond earlier this year. I'd say New Hampshire is probably the other track that we go to on the schedule that runs similar to Richmond. Then the 750 horsepower package this weekend. I would argue dominators are way more important than place differentials. So really just want to earn those or nail those dominators. We'll probably see drivers scoring more than 90, 100 plus, 120 plus points this weekend if they can stay out front. Like I said, it's the second playoff race. Really, I think this slate comes down to finding the right balance of how many dominators and, nailing them and then pairing them with place differential and value plays. And like we mentioned in the Xfinity race, we're actually going to be there in person. So we're excited to watch the race. Let's kind of see how our lines do in person. But starting with the expensive guys, we'll start with you this time, Kev. From Kyle Busch down to Truex, who are those top plays you want to make sure in your line this weekend?
I guess first I'll just start by saying I hope this race lives up to last race. The boys really put on a show last week to kick off the playoffs, so hopefully we get some great racing to round out the year due to that. But I'll start by saying I'll start with Denny Hamlin. I know he's kind of in the lower end of this price range, but he won last week finally. Took all season, but he finally got it done when it mattered most. He's been one of the more consistent drivers all year, and he's probably the best, definitely top two on these types of tracks this year. Comes in at 10-4, starting second, so he's on the front row. So there's a good chance he could jump out early and dominate this race to at least to start it, which would help pay off that salary right out of the gate. The other two guys I like are Logano. I hate to say that, but I think he's a good play this week, starting 6. Again, offers you that dominator potential. He's the second highest driver rating here behind, I believe, Denny Hamlin. So I'd imagine this is kind of the race he's got it circled in this first round of the playoffs that he has the best chance to go out there, win, secure his spot in the next round. And then Martin Truax, we just know he's just a great short track racer in general. He ran pretty well last week. Probably would have won last week had he not kept getting himself into trouble with loose wheels and penalties and kind of just killed himself last week. But other than that, I mean, Kyle Busch is probably a decent play, starting 15th. I hate that they haven't priced up so high. I think it kind of puts him out of play there and why we have his interest level at low. He offers you a good bit of PD potential there, starting 15th. You know he's going to get up there. Probably should get about a top 5, but, for $11,500, I don't necessarily know. That's what I'm going for there. Paying this much, I want those guys that are going to lead the laps, have the fast laps, and win this damn race.
Yeah, I like Coop or Rich.
I like. Obviously, I always like Kyle Larson. He's definitely probably a little bit more GPP this week compared to most weeks. He did dominate last week, just didn't get the win. We saw Denny Hamlin get the win. I am probably going to play Larson every week until he just proves that he's not the best guy out there in the field, because even though he didn't win yet last week, he still dominated most of the race and was in the optimal lineups. And I have a feeling he's going to be able to do that again. So I'll probably have one lineup with Larson and one lineup with Hamlin, and then decide which other stud up here that I'd like to pair him with. And I'd probably lean towards Martin Truex Jr. He screwed a lot of people last week with all the pit road penalties and like loose wheels that Kev was talking about. But starting third, he's starting up in the front. He should be able to maintain his track position the entire race. And I think he'll be able to get some laps led and some dominator points as well. And I'd like to touch on Kyle Busch as well. I think 11.5 is a little expensive, but I'm pretty sure – I don't remember the exact price that we paid last week, but I'm like Byron and Busch, they were all like 10th, 12th, 15th, and they were all around $11,000 as well, and we were all about playing them. So, I mean, Kyle Busch would probably have to get some dominator points for it to be worth it at that price, but I think it's entirely possible. Both him and Chase are probably GPP plays, even though they offer the place differential. And I would definitely lean towards Larson, Hamlin, and Truex this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, it's Larson, Logano, Hamlin, Truex. I think those are the four guys that I really want to focus on this weekend and try to at least grab two of them, maybe even potentially three, depending on how, bottom of the barrel you really want to go. I just have a hard time seeing Kyle Busch outscoring, Hamlin and Truex just because they start so much closer to the front. It's going to take him a little bit, to get up there. And with how many laps there are, like if you're not getting the guys who are leading laps, it's going to be really tough to cash this weekend. And Kyle Busch was, he was pretty frustrated. His car was pretty bad last weekend. So team is definitely trending in the wrong direction. Chase Elliott, I mean, he's 11-2. He's a little expensive there. I think you can get his teammates at Byron or Bowman at a cheaper price, who has, basically the same amount of upside. Larson will be interesting starting on the pole, but if you just look at track history and you look at the 750 horsepower package on these flatter tracks, Logano, Hamlin, and Truex have been kind of the class of the field. So those are the guys I really want to target. But anything else, Coop, that we did not talk about that you feel like adding to this range? If not, feel free to drop down to the 9K range.
I don't think so. I just would like to say that I'm high on Hamlin this week as well. It's really tough when Larson's on the pole, and he has dominated the season, I would say. He's led by far the most laps this year, and he's done really, really well. And yet I'm pivoting to Denny, and I think he's going to get out front relatively early and lead the laps. So that's I guess, my big sneaky call for the week. I think Denny will do really well and get in front of Larson. And part of that is we talked about us racing in the 750 horsepower package versus the 550. JGR has been much better, and Hendricks has not been as good in that package. So that is also going to be the reason why I prefer Christopher Bell over Byron. I think Christopher Bell on these shorter, flatter tracks has proven himself, and he's done really, really well this season. And I can see him getting a top 5. And if things go his way, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a fast enough car to maybe lead a couple laps if he gets the opportunity. So I do not mind those plays at all. I'm not as high on Brad Keselowski, but I am similar to Bell, a little warm on Harvick this week just because of how well he performed last week. And he knows he needs a win. He hasn't got one all year. We saw Hamlin get one last week, and wouldn't it be something special if we saw Hamlin and Harvick get them back-to-back after how they dominated last season with all the wins that they got? So I'm not writing Harvick off at just 9,100. I think it's a little bit of a discounted price for him. Even though there's a low chance of him leading laps and there's basically no PD there, I think he's going to finish right around where he starts most likely. And if he does get out front and leads laps because they know that they need that win in the playoffs, I think as a GPP play, Harvick could provide you salary relief and a good score. So I don't mind really any of the drivers in the range, but Christopher Bell's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm not really big on this range as a whole. I think, Byron and Bell that offer you the PD are priced up maybe a little higher than they should be. Bell's probably the better play than Byron, as Hendricks has not been good on these style tracks this year at all. I think that could change. Maybe they're testing some stuff out for the playoffs and they're going to come out and, in a show of force. But I think Bell's probably my favorite in this just because he's run well here all year. He ran well last week. He's just trying to make as far into his playoffs as he can to prove that he deserves the ride he's got. And I think so far he's done that. Offers you a little bit PD starting 10th, probably not a whole lot. I expect him to get a top 10, but probably not win this race. And Brad K is going to be like the 9K and up GPP guy just because he's been real hit or miss this year. He usually runs well on these types of tracks, but you just I don't know if it's because he's making that move next year or not, but it just seems like that team just hasn't been their regular selves this year, but has shown a little flashes of, really good racing, and then you just don't really hear his name in a lot of the other races so far this year. I don't know what you think about that, Rich.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually probably don't like Brad K at all this week. Just for the same reason that you're talking about. I feel like his mind's elsewhere, and he hasn't really done anything over the last 2 months of the season. We just really haven't seen him run in the top 5 or be, consistently running in the top 5. He's running like the top 13, top 7. He's not pushing the guys or leading laps or getting dominator points. I mean, there's potential he can run around and finish in the top 5, but I think I'd probably rather play like Byron or Bell that can do the same thing and offers a few more place differential points. They're both you did mention that Hendricks hasn't been as great on the shorter tracks, but they're still not terrible. They're still like top 12 cars. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of hard to get away from that. In this range, I would probably lean towards Byron and Bell as my favorite plays. And then Kevin Harvick's definitely a GPP play. He did run well last week. I was actually surprised. The first stage, he was leading laps and looked pretty good. And then, they might not have made the right adjustment throughout the race and just kind of fell off a little bit. But he still looked pretty solid, and that's a good sign for Stewart Haas. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think you guys, talked about the 9K range. For me, I kind of love when we disagree. Like I'm the highest on Keselowski just because Penske has these short flat tracks, dialed in. And I feel the most confident if he were, of the 4 drivers there, I feel like he has the most potential and the highest upside to get out front and lead laps. And if he's able to do that, it's going to work out for your line. But dropping down to the 8K range, I'm pretty high on Matty D for the same reason. He's kind of affiliated with those Team Penske drivers. So if they're able to somehow, give him even half of, the setup that the Penske drivers have, starting 28th, it should be a nice place differential play for you. And then Alex Bowman, he might get an ownership spike just because he won the first Richmond race. But really it was Hamlin and Truex who led, 100 plus laps each, and Bowman kind of snuck in there at the end. So I'm okay with him. I'd rather pay down for Bowman than pay up for Byron or Elliott there. But what about you, Coop? What do you think about those 8K drivers?
Yeah, I agree with you. Bowman won here last time we were at Richmond, but it was a very late win. He didn't really lead any laps, but he obviously can race the track well and had to be in position to do that. So you do like to see that from Bowman. The driver in this range that I'm most excited about is Matty D, just because of the place differential. But I'm not shying away from Austin Dillon as a GPP play either. He's a playoff driver. He needs a win. They've been racing really hard, and I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and got a good finish and really went for it. So those are the drivers that I would highlight. I'm not as high on Blaney, even though we like Penske this week. I'd rather go with Logano or Keselowski out of the Team Penske team, even though Blaney's the cheapest and is starting right around Keselowski.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Coop. I think you guys cover that 8K range pretty good. So I'm just gonna move on down here, keep this thing rolling. I'll start with Ross Chastain, starting 17th. He had an amazing run last week. He was in the optimal line, just lights out, proved that he's definitely going to try to win one of these playoff races is what it seems like, just to kind of prove a point, send a message, set the team up good for next year. And start 17th, obviously a little bit of PD. I could see him running top 12 this week easily. Comes in at the discounted $7,200. I think that's about perfect for him. The other guy I'll mention is Eric Almarola. I know we have him as high. He's bringing the car that he won New Hampshire with. But it's also Eric Almarola, so I'm kind of expecting him to hit the wall at some point this race and wreck a winning race car, and that be it. But I think he's a solid play. Look, especially if you're running multiple lines. I think, obviously that car was fast at New Hampshire. No reason it shouldn't be fast today unless they do something drastic to it. I could just see Eric putting that thing in the wall and ruining his day. And then I'll talk about Busher here for a second too. Starting 18th, I'd like to see him starting a few spots farther back just to offer a little bit more PD. I know we have here that would rather pay up for Chastain, but I'm not opposed to Busher. If the way the rest of your build works out, you're $200 short, can't get to Chastain, I'd run Busher. Starting 18th, he ran well last week. I don't see why I couldn't get probably top 15. Definitely probably compete for a top 10 as well. Doesn't offer you quite as much as he could, but I don't have an issue running him at all. He's, again, pretty good driver all year, and I think he's been 2 top 10s the last 2 races, so he's probably looking to keep that streak alive. And if he gets a top 10, he definitely pays off that price tag without a doubt.
Yeah, in the 7K range, Almarola is an all right play. You guys mentioned that he's bringing the same car that he won in. And as Kev said, Almarola is, in my opinion, only a GPP play. I would never play him in cash or anything unless he's starting in the back of the field, and especially at starting 9th. The car is going to be fast. We know that. He should be able to hang around the top 10. I just feel like, the Hendricks guys and the Joe Gibbs guys they're just going to be a little bit better than him. I do agree with you about Chris Buescher. If you can't afford to get to Chastain, I would definitely play Chris Buescher. They're definitely probably a little bit better in the 550 package than they are the 750 package. But Buescher's been running well all year long. And I can see him, finishing in the top 15, top 12, and paying off the price tag. But Chastain's probably my favorite play in this range. He had a great run last week, ran in the top 5 for most of the race. I don't expect that to happen again, but he can definitely move up into the top 10.
Yeah, Chastain's a team, that's trending upward. They have momentum. They have solid runs, solid finishes. So I like Chastain. I like Eric Almarola too. I agree. He's probably a GPP only play with where he starts. But if I can get, it's probably slim, but if I can get a potential lap leader, for $7,500, like sign me up for that. And then we can kind of drop down to the 6K range. Unless is there anything else, Coop, you want to add? 7K guys.
I would just say that I agree with Kev. I'm not as low on Buescher. If I end up in that range and I have Chastain plugged into my line already, because I think he's the driver that we prefer. He's a very aggressive driver and he could wreck. But I think throughout the season, he's really leveled that off and he started to race a lot smarter. So I think we obviously prefer Chastain. I'm not shying away from Buescher either. I prefer Buescher over Suarez as we move into the next round. I'm 50-50 on Buescher and Stenhouse. I think that the pricing shows that too, really, with them being priced only $300 apart. I really like both of those drivers.
Classic. Really likes both of those drivers. I think Stenhouse is a little bit safer there just because he has that place differential baked in. And he's just a little bit of a safer play than I feel like than Buescher there. Are you back though?
Can you hear me?
Yep. I
was saying the driver in this range that I really like is Eric Jones. And I think that he offers a ton of PD, and just with only paying $6,600, we've seen Jones start top 30, so generally top 25 this season. So he's given you a little extra PD than he's given you throughout the season. And I think he's only going to move forward. And I like Jones as a GPP or a cash play. And I also I don't mind either Bubba or Chase Briscoe. I think they're both fine. I know Briscoe was bad last week, but Stewart Haas has been okay in this package. And Briscoe has really been turning it in as of late. He's been really racing well. He's been getting better and better as the season goes on, and I don't mind him. But my preference would be Eric Jones or Bubba there. And I also think if you're going super GPP, you could play Michael McDowell. I think at 6,100, starting 16th, nobody's going to be on him. He's a playoff driver. He's trying his damnedest because he's been racing all these years, like a decade, and he got his first win this year. and they're going for it. And if you're going super GPP and you're throwing a dart, I don't think anybody else will be on him. So I don't mind it. What do you think, Rich? You think that's a good analysis?
Yeah, I agree with you. In this 6K range, definitely like Eric Jones, like you guys have said, and Bubba Wallace as well. Both of them offer a fair amount of place differential. I also like Ricky Stenhouse starting 23rd. Generally, we've been playing him when he starts a little bit farther back, but he can finish top 15 and pay off the price tag. Not a fan of Briscoe this week, even though Stuart Haas is generally better in the 750 package, and Briscoe actually playing pretty decent last week. Would rather play the guys around him in price. And I'm not sure if you guys have talked about this range yet, but I'm going to drop down and talk about Corey LaJoie and J.J. Elliott. Corey LaJoie has been great on the short tracks, and I'm going to be playing him again this week. Probably my favorite pop play. And then J.J. Elliott as well. We love him in the Xfinity Series. Obviously, the car he has in this one isn't as great, but he can still, hang around and wait for wrecks to happen and be able to move off and pay off the price tag at only $5,300. That should be easy.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, man. Yeah, I agree. I think LaJoie and Yaley are the clear punt plays or super values, we'll call them this week, because I think they actually have a chance to move up by driving, not due to accidents, and actually score you some points. Come in cheap, and I think it's really going to help you jam in 2, and like Andrew was saying earlier, maybe even 3 of those 10K plus drivers.
Yeah, I think, really to sum it up, like you want to, I think, grab LaJoie, grab a couple of these 6K place differential plays, and then it's really, look at the top range and try to figure out who you're the most confident in as far as who can lead you those laps. So I think starting with Larson, Logano, Hamlin, or Truex, 2 or 3 of those guys is a good option. Coming down, grabbing Chastain, a Busher, Stenhouse, Jones, Wallace. And then if you need, the extra salary relief, I think LaJoie has a ton of upside. This team was legitimately running like in the top 15 last week, and it's the same 750 horsepower package. It's a new sponsor on the car. Justin Haley, their teammate, sponsored too. And then J.J. Haley, I think he doesn't have the same finishing potential, obviously, as LaJoie, but if everyone is going to be on LaJoie, I think he's a decent pivot option. He's raced in the Cup Series, I think 4 or 3 times this year, and every single time he's finished in the 20s. So I expect a very similar performance from him again on Saturday night. But anything final you want to add to the video, Coop?
Yeah, I'll say I love J.J. Yaley. I think he's starting dead last. I think he offers a ton of PD. And I also really like Corey LaJoie. I think it's crazy that he's priced lower than Alfredo, Preece, and Newman, and honestly Mcdowell, even though I did say that he's a sneaky GPP play. I think that I like Yaley and LaJoie's value better. So that's where I would go in my lines.
And all I have to say is if you're at the race and you see us, come say hi.
We will see you at Richmond.
Yeah, so the boys will be at Richmond. It's a little bit of a longer video than normal, but hopefully we gave you some good driver-by-driver breakdown analysis. And the Xfinity video is up live too. Any questions you guys have, shoot them to us over on Twitter at FastCarsFM. Drop them down in the comments below, and that'll be it. And we'll see you guys at Richmond.
Let's do Richmond. Come on.